What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. Happy Monday, everyone. The horses are prepared for battle, but victory comes from the Lord. I don't know why, but I've just always wanted to say that. Steelers or Ravens fans, we got to talk because y'all are extremely ungrateful. You have two of the longest tenure coaches in the league. But yet, these two respective fan bases just seem to hate their guts. And you know how the old saying goes, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And that's exactly what has happened with Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh. You Steelers and Ravens fans gotta stop. Because I promise you, the grass is not greener on the other side like you may think. Do you not know how hard it is to have two coaches who have had this level of success over this long period of a time? Are you kidding me? Where's the appreciation? The Houston Texans. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I was looking through their roster the other night, and that defense, oh my goodness. We might see the second coming of LOB this year from the Texans. I'm trying to tell y'all, this defense is going to make a lot of offenses crash out on the sidelines this year. Many NFL fans are wrong about Aaron Rodgers. He is far from washed. Age is nothing but a number for the bad man. And then we're getting into the Washington Commanders. I got some thoughts on Cam Ward, and we'll bounce around the rest of the league. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon so you don't miss when we drop new content, and let's dive into it. And the wise words of Harvey Dent, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And that's exactly what has happened with Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh. So recently, John Harbaugh just got a new contract extension, and you would have expected for the Ravens flock to be excited about this. You're keeping John Harbaugh, one of the most successful coaches in the history of this league, and instead you got Ravens fans acting ungrateful, saying, another divisional round playoff loss coming, another disappointing season on the way, another year wasting Lamar Jackson's talents. And then with Mike Tomlin, it's funny. Even though the Steelers and Ravens are arch enemies, they hate each other with all their guts, you know, both of these fan bases have the same feelings about their head coaches. You know, you talk to Steelers fans, they want to get rid of Mike Tomlin. They are tired of never winning anything come postseason time, and it's understandable. Here's what fans overlook, though. The longer you remain with an organization, a company, or a job, the easier it is to grow a dislikeness for it over time. Eventually, you know, your expectations get to a point where they're so high based off what you have done in the past, to where when you have a stretch like the Steelers have, where you've gone so long without a playoff win, the Ravens haven't been close to the Super Bowl since, you know, they last won it outside of the AFC Championship against Kansas City a few years ago. So it's understandable why fans want to change the scenery when it comes to new head coaches on the Steelers and the Ravens. You feel like John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin have peaked. They have maximized. They've gotten everything that they could have out of both of these teams. The longer that you are with the team, though, you are going to have stretches like this where you go an extended period of time without a playoff win. You have stretches where you're trying to figure out how to elevate, how to get to a different level. I don't think it's John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin, you know, they're outdated. I more so think it's they have plateaued, and it's taken them a while to figure out how to break through again. You know, the NFL is constantly evolving. This game is always changing. What worked 10 years ago probably isn't working anymore, at least to the same level of degree that it used to. But for Ravens and Steelers fans to be ungrateful for Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh, both of these fan bases want these coaches gone. They're not happy with them. You're ungrateful as hell. That's just being honest. I promise you the grass is not greener on the other side like you may think. Do you not know how hard it is to find a head coach that no matter what is going to win no less than 9 games every season? And although Lamar Jackson is a large reason why John Harbaugh still has a job, he did a great job of building the perfect offense around Lamar and developing a quarterback that, before he got drafted, a ton of folks thought he should have changed positions. Not too many people thought Lamar Jackson would become the player that he is today. In my opinion, the greatest quarterback talent to ever touch a football. And for Mike Tomlin, it does frustrate Steeler Nation that you're not bad enough to be in position to draft the franchise-changing quarterback like Jayden Daniels or Caleb Williams, and you're never good enough to compete. So if you're not good enough to win the Super Bowl, you might as well be garbage. But here's the reality of this. The Steelers and the Ravens are not far from where they want to be. You're right there, especially the Ravens. They're a lot more closer than the Steelers due to them having the young legend out of Pompano at QB. But the Steelers don't need to move on from Mike Tomlin just yet. This guy has been the biggest overachiever in the league for at least the last 4 to 5 years. The man was winning with Duck Hodges, Mason Rudolph, Kenny Two Hands Pickett, a washed Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. Imagine what Mike Tomlin could do if he finally has at least above average quarterback play. You see, the issue with Mike Tomlin is that he can win in the regular season, but come playoff time, when you're in the conference that's home to the majority of the best quarterbacks in the league, you trying to win a postseason game with Mason Rudolph or washed Russell Wilson is the equivalent to bringing a butter knife or a plastic butter knife to a gunfight. That's what it is. You're not winning a damn thing if you don't have good quarterback play. How can you expect Mike Tomlin to go the distance with below average QB play in a quarterback-driven league? There are some fair criticisms to be had about Mike Tomlin, but to put all of the Steelers' shortcomings on him, you know, it's a little bit irresponsible. It's a team effort. He's not just the head coach. You know, like he does have a general manager that is in charge of assembling the roster. I get it that the clock management could be a lot better, but with Mike Tomlin, I definitely feel like he's gotten the most out of the Steelers based off what they've given him from a quarterback standpoint. And John Harbaugh, I don't feel like the Ravens don't have a chance at ever winning a Super Bowl with Lamar, with him being the head coach. I just feel that it's just a matter of when. I don't think it's a matter of if the Ravens are going to win the Super Bowl with Lamar, because I feel it's going to happen. And you don't need to change coaches to do so. What is the problem with Baltimore is just that you don't know how to win games in the postseason. When the game was on the line, palms get sweaty, chests get tight, you fail to deliver. Not all because of Lamar, not all because of John Harbaugh. You can't blame John Harbaugh for that Mark Andrews drop. Mark Andrews has been not just one of the best tight ends in the NFL over the last couple years, but he's one of the best players in the history of the Baltimore Ravens. If there's anybody that you would trust in a situation like that, it's Mark Andrews. You think John Harbaugh, Todd Monken, Lamar saw Mark Andrews dropping that pass coming? Absolutely not. You can't put that on John Harbaugh. You can't put that Tyler Huntley fumble a few years in the wild card round against Cincinnati where it got scooped up in return by Sam Hubbard for a 98-yard scoop and score. At the end of the day, the players got to execute. How much blame are we going to put on these coaches versus how much blame do we have to put on these players? It's a two-way street. You can't ask for much more than what you have received out of both Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh during their tenures with the respective franchises. And if the Ravens or the Steelers were to fire them, despite them continuing to win, continuing to make it to the postseason, I think both clubs are going to find out really quickly, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. I was looking at the Houston Texans defense the other night, and oh my goodness, this Texans defense is going to make a lot of offenses crash out on the sidelines this year. This could be the reincarnation of the Legion of Boom. Y'all remember the Legion of Boom with Earl Thomas, Richard Sherman, Cam Bam, Chancellor? That's how this Texans defense looks like to me coming into this year. With the addition of C.J. Gardner-Johnson, this is the best secondary that the NFL has had in years. You got Derek Stingley, right now the best cornerback in the league, coming off of All-Pro season. Kamari Lassiter had a really good rookie campaign. You got Kalen Bullock as well. But you also get a fully healthy Jalen Pitre. That's what has me so amped up about the addition of C.J. Gardner-Johnson on the Texans defense. With Jalen Pitre now fully healthy, the opportunities are limitless for how good Petry's going to be in the new role that they put him in, going back to the position that he played in college at Baylor, that star slot position, which really showcases all of his great skill sets. He has really good instincts. He just has a knack for getting to the football, good tackler. He's a ball hog. This is the most underrated defensive player in the league. To me, Jalen Pitre is a top 5 safety in the game right now. And am I a little bit biased? A little bit. Because Jalen Pitre, I was extremely high on him when he was coming out of Baylor. He was one of my favorite players coming out of that draft class. I've always believed that he'll turn into a star. Let's not forget, not only is the secondary loaded, but they're pretty good at linebacker, and they're really good at getting after the quarterback. Will Anderson, he missed 3 games last year and still had 11 sacks. Imagine if he would have played all 17. He probably ends up having 15, maybe 16 sacks. You could see Will Anderson win Defensive Player of the Year this season going into his 3rd year in the league. And then you still got Danielle Hunter. This is his 3rd straight season with 10-plus sacks or more. The guy only seems to be getting better with age. This Texans defense is going to be the best in the league this season. Last year, they already had a top 3, top 5 defense. They were good against the pass. They had a really good red zone defense as well. The run defense was pretty good, but it's going to be a lot better with what they bring in from free agency. This is a defense that has so many different ways to make life difficult on opposing offenses this year. You're going to have a hard time running the ball against them with how stout they have become up front. And are you really going to try to test this secondary? Not only do you have a lot of great starters, but you have really capable depth. Like, if a guy like Jalen Pitre, Kalen Bullock gets injured, you can just replace him with Jimmy Ward, who, although he's starting to regress a little bit, I think he's an incredible have to still remain on your roster as a backup option. This is also a defensive unit that they can force a lot of turnovers. So they can beat you a multitude of different ways. They can make life difficult trying to throw the ball with their suffocating secondary. They got a extremely good pass rush. They just have multiple different ways to make it hard to move the football downfield if you are opposing offense. And this defense, from a talent standpoint, I haven't seen a secondary this loaded since the Seahawks had the Legion of Boom. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic or overly ambiguous when I say that, but just look at the sheer talent on paper that's on this defense. There's not a single defense in the league that has the kind of core group of players that the Texans do on this defense, from a standpoint that they're good or even elite on all 3 phases. I'm very excited to see what the Texans defense looks like this year. They already had an elite unit last year with the addition of Gardner-Johnson and a healthy Jalen Pitre coming back, and with what they are probably going to add via the draft. With a defense this good, you would think if the offensive line can improve, the Texans have a great shot at being able to make a run at the Super Bowl. There still is a large group of folks out there that believe defense wins championships. It looks like the Houston Texans got a championship caliber defense on their hands going into this year. I push back on saying the Philadelphia Eagles are going to become a dynasty due to them playing in the same division as Jayden Daniels. And to me, Jayden Daniels has already cemented himself as a top 5 quarterback in the league. He carried Washington to the NFC Championship with the average roster, a team that wasn't expected to win no more than maybe 6-7 games at best. He already proved that he's better than Jalen Hurts and a ton of other quarterbacks in the league because he has done more with less in only 1 year. Now think about how good Washington was year 1 with Jayden Daniels, and think about how good they're going to be in year 2 now that you add one of the best left tackles in the league at Laremy Tunsil. You rob him from the Houston Texans pretty much. You get Deebo Samuel from the San Francisco 49ers. These are players that are going to be extremely crucial for the Commanders making a Super Bowl run this year. They have improved 2 of the biggest weaknesses on their team from last year. And not only is Washington built to win now, they're built to dominate the NFC for years to come. You got Jayden Daniels on one of the biggest bargain deals right now. You still are going to be paying low-end money for elite quarterback play for at least 2, maybe 3 more years, which gives you a great opportunity to continue to load up, acquire big-name talent, and eventually 3-4 years down the road, when you do have to pay Jayden Daniels, you're not stressing over how you're going to pay everybody else because you already got those guys locked up long-term before you paid Jayden Daniels. This is a defense that continues to get better. Dan Quinn is a defensive-minded coach. You would expect for that side of the ball to be a lot better next season, which it was pretty good last year. Really, the run defense was their biggest Achilles heel. I love what the Commanders have built. This is a franchise that for a very long time has not just been one of the worst ran in the NFL, but one of the worst ran in the entirety of sports. And in the span of 1 year after drafting Jayden Daniels and you bring in Dan Quinn, you're now in a situation to run this conference for the foreseeable future. Jayden already was a top 5 quarterback in his rookie season. I don't want to know how good he's going to be in year 2 with another year of development. I keep hearing this chatter around Jayden Daniels having a sophomore slump. That's not going to happen. The old narrative of, these defensive coordinators are watching film, as if these quarterbacks aren't improving, as if they're not watching film themselves, as if these quarterbacks are being stagnant, allowing the league to catch up to them. For as many quarterbacks that have had sophomore slumps, there have also been quarterbacks who have risen to the occasion in their second seasons. Like Joe Burrow, in his second year with the Bengals, coming off a season-ending injury, he took them to the Super Bowl. Lamar won MVP in his second year. Same thing with Patrick Mahomes. There's no guarantee that Jayden Daniels is going to regress in year 2. Eagles fans are just hoping that it happens because they're scared of how good this team is going to be with Jayden Daniels having an even better supporting cast this year than what he had last year. It scares you. Eagles fans know deep in their hearts, even if they don't want to admit it, that Jayden Daniels right now is a far better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. You don't need 3 to 4 years to see that. Jayden Daniels did more with less than what Jalen Hurts did. I don't give a damn if the Eagles beat Washington in the playoffs because it's a team sport. Jalen Hurts had the better overall roster. Now, with Jayden Daniels having a roster that is just as good or not too far away from Philadelphia, the playing field has been leveled. And Eagles fans are about to realize very quickly how much of a problem and a pain in the butt that Jayden Daniels is about to be for at least the next decade. The NFC has their version of Lamar Jackson. This is without a doubt the most talented quarterback in this conference. There's not a single thing that Jayden Daniels can't do. The brother is the clutchest quarterback in the league right now, not named Patrick Mahomes. It seemed like every doggone time the Commanders went for it on fourth down, they were always converting it. Jayden Daniels always knew where to go with the football. And even if you were able to shut down all his receivers, he just is going to kill you on the ground. How the hell do you stop Jayden Daniels? You can't stop Jayden Daniels. You can only hope to contain him. And that's why the Commanders are built to win now and later. This is not just a one-off story where you had a team that caught fire late. They took advantage of a few injuries of the Detroit Lions in the playoffs, and they kind of lucked up to being one step shy of the Super Bowl. No, like the Commanders were really as good as what they showed last year, and nothing was luck about it. It's not luck if you can do it again. And for the Commanders to already be ahead of schedule, I'm only imagining what the ceiling is in 2025, year 2 with Jayden and Dan Quinn and their new general manager, Adam Peters. If you're making it to the NFC Championship in year 1, year 2, you definitely could not just make it back to that spot, but you also could make it to the Super Bowl. The Commanders have such a large advantage on the majority of the NFC due to them having Jayden Daniels on a rookie deal and him already being the most talented quarterback in this conference. He's a better athlete than Jalen, Stafford, Purdy, any of the other top quarterbacks in the NFC. Jayden clears from just a skill point standpoint. And also, with how well he throws the football as a rookie, in year 2 now, you're looking at somebody who may end up become a better passer than Lamar Jackson. If he's already this good in year 1 and year 2, the potential is limitless for Jayden Daniels at this point. For all we know, Jayden Daniels could go on to win 3-4 more Super Bowls. He's that kind of player. And that's why the Commanders, I feel like they're going to end up being a staple in the NFC for a very long time. It's a new era of Washington Commanders football after years of torture and being miserable by Dan Snyder. You finally have a reason to not just be optimistic, but to actually believe that this organization has the ability to win it all. In the 2020 NFL Draft, it was this defensive player that played 5 different positions. He got drafted 8th overall by the Arizona Cardinals, and I was going through the free agency listings the other day, and I was shocked to see that Isaiah Simmons right now is unsigned. This is somebody that was a jack-of-all-trades player coming out of Clemson a few years ago. He could play linebacker, edge rusher, cornerback, slot cornerback, safety. And with him being able to play so many different positions at a high level in college, I thought that it was damn near impossible for him to be a bust. Because it's like, dude, you play 5 different positions. If you suck at one, we can move you to 4 other ones until you find one that you're good at. And it has to be impossible for you to not be elite at one of them if you can play all 5. But Isaiah Simmons proves why hybrid players do not work in the NFL. You see, as fans, the idea of having a Swiss Army knife, a guy that can play 3-4 positions, it sounds good. It sounds good for the aesthetics. We got a Taysom Hill kind of player here. We can move him around. He can create so many mismatches. But the risk that you run investing a high draft pick into one of these jack-of-all-trades kind of players like Isaiah Simmons is that you risk drafting the guy that ends up being a jack-of-all-trades in college and a master of none in the NFL. And that's what has happened to Isaiah Simmons. He's not garbage. He's a decent player. He's made a fair amount of big plays throughout his career, but he isn't good at a particular position. And I don't feel like Isaiah Simmons' career has played out the way that it has up to this point due to bad coaching, getting drafted by a bad organization. Yes, where you go somewhat does matter, but I feel like that really is dependent upon certain positions. If you are a quarterback, where you land matters. But if you play a position like pass rusher, cornerback, you should be able to dominate anywhere that you go. And I feel like the biggest issue with Isaiah Simmons wasn't the coaching. It's the fact that with him splitting so many reps and practice at Clemson between so many different positions, he never received the proper development that he needed to be good and excel at any one of those positions at the next level. Isaiah Simmons was dominating college football because of sheer athleticism. Now, he did have a good amount of talent. Let's not get it twisted. Just because you're a good athlete just doesn't guarantee you're going to be a first-round pick. You do have to have some good intangibles, and I felt like Isaiah Simmons had a lot of them. Ball hawk, you playing 5 different positions at the level that you did, that's not normal. And he does have great size. The dude is like 6'3", 6'4", 238 pounds, damn near 240. Running 4.39, you know, like the athleticism is there. This is an NFL kind of player. It's not like you got somebody that dominated college football and then he got to the league and then he just became an above average athlete. When you see Isaiah Simmons on the field, you see a guy that's a physical specimen. And I keep asking myself, like, why hasn't Isaiah Simmons been able to find a position that really suits his skill set? But it's hard as a defensive coordinator or a head coach to develop somebody like Isaiah Simmons where when he's just a master of nothing. You got somebody that's okay at a lot of different positions but not good at them. So that's why anytime he goes to a new team, like when he went from Arizona to the Giants, he was switching from linebacker to safety a lot. When you have a team that keeps switching your positions, it's due to them not really figuring out which one you're the best at. And that's not a team problem. That's a you problem. Fans never want to admit when a guy just isn't able to be the same player in the league that he was in college football. Then it's very evident that that's the case with Isaiah Simmons. I don't view Travis Hunter in the same way I view Isaiah Simmons. He plays 2 positions, not 4 or 5. Travis Hunter has had a lot of practice time to hone his craft at both receiver and cornerback. Isaiah Simmons didn't. When you're splitting between slot corner, outside corner, inside linebacker, edge, and safety, how do you ever expect to become good at any of those positions where they require you to have various different skill sets? You don't play safety the same way that you play linebacker. You don't play corner the same way that you play edge. It's just so many different positions that it's so much to learn. And early during his rookie season with Arizona, he did have some splash plays, but remember, he struggled to learn the playbook. And that's why times, in certain instances, he was on the bench and he wasn't even on the field that much. And in his second season, he improved. But then in his third season, he took a big step back. Injuries have also played a large factor into what his career has been today. But Isaiah Simmons is the big reason why the NFL should think twice about drafting hybrid players high in the draft. And Isaiah Simmons is a big reason for this. When you have somebody that just split so much time between positions, it's impossible to find a way to develop them. You have to be a complete genius to find a suitable role for a guy like Isaiah Simmons. He's not a traditional player. When you have somebody that is playing so many various positions, you have to find a hybrid role for them. And not every player can handle multiple different responsibilities. With great power comes great responsibilities. With a lot of versatility also comes a lot of responsibilities. Because then, if you are playing so many different spots, you got to know so many different terminologies. You got to learn so many different assignments. Because what you do defensively largely is dependent upon what the offense comes out in. And with him, being this hybrid player early on into his career, it's no wonder why he struggled learning the playbook. You're playing 5 different spots. You got to learn 5 different positions. It's hard to do that. Not just playing linebacker, safety, or corner, but for any position, just learning how to be great at one position is tough enough. But trying to be a good player at 3, 4 of them is extremely tough. I don't care what you tell me, you're not going to convince me that Aaron Rodgers is washed. When you play on one of the worst ran franchises in the NFL, no matter how good of a quarterback you are, you could be freaking Tom Brady and still not have a lot of success when you're playing for the dumpster fire that is the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers had to overcome poor coaching during his time in New York. Now, was it his fault why the Jets were the clown show that they were? Absolutely. But let's not make it seem like Aaron Rodgers was fully to blame for the disaster that was the Jets' 2024 season. There were so many games that this team lost due to poor coaching. When you're constantly losing games due to special teams miscues, you have a defense that regressed tremendously when they made the switch from Saleh to Jeff Ulbrich. Aaron Rodgers had to be damn near perfect for the Jets to be a playoff team, and it's unreasonable to expect that level of play out of a guy that's 42 years old. Let me give you an insane stat. Despite Aaron Rodgers being 40 plus, he was second in the league in pass attempts. That's not a sustainable way to be able to win football games. Aaron Rodgers, we know he's not the same player that he used to be, which is why he was never going to have success on an organization as dysfunctional as the New York Jets. Brett Favre didn't win anything in New York neither, and you saw what he did once he went to the Minnesota Vikings. You saw how better Sam Darnold's career has been since he got away from the place that quarterbacks go to die, which is the Jets organization. I'm willing to believe that Aaron Rodgers still has one more good season left in him. To be honest, a decade from now, when Aaron Rodgers gets that gold jacket, he's a first ballot in the Hall of Fame, none of us are going to remember his time on the New York Jets. When I think of Aaron Rodgers, I think of the bad man that I grew up watching, winning countless MVPs, being the greatest quarterback of his generation from a talent standpoint. I'm not going to remember how his time in New York ended. What I am going to remember is how he ends his career. And playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers gives him the best chance to end his career with a good ending. If you can go out winning a playoff game, losing in the divisional round, that's a huge W for a guy like Aaron Rodgers. I do feel like his reputation, his legacy took somewhat of a small hit with what happened, what transpired on the Jets. But football is a team sport. The quarterback position is the most important when it comes to wins and losses. But there's never been an elite quarterback that's won a lot of games with bad coaching. But there's been countless of elite coaches that have won with subpar quarterback play. As a quarterback, you can't overcome poor coaching. As a coach, you can overcome poor quarterback play. Football is one of the few sports that it relies on everybody to do their job right, to be good at what they do. Though when in the NBA, if you have 2 or 3 good players and the rest of your team isn't good, you can still be a championship team because of those 3 players alone are good enough to propel you to that spot. But in football, when it's 11 on 11 and not 5v5, you need not just good players, but you also need the coaching to be up to par. The coaches or the teams that go the furthest in the playoffs, that have the most success come playoff times, are the teams that are well coached. That's why Kansas City has been to so many Super Bowls over these past couple of years. Andy Reid is arguably the greatest head coach in NFL history. Aaron Rodgers going to the Steelers, linking up with Mike Tomlin, this is the best situation for him to still have a chance of retiring on top. The Steelers got a good roster. You got George Pickens. You got DK Metcalf. The offensive line isn't as bad as what it's made out to be. Their first-round pick last year at offensive tackle out of Washington, He's a pretty good player, but we didn't see him take a single snap as a rookie. They had countless of injuries on the offensive line. With Aaron Rodgers, that offensive line should improve thanks to him being able to get the ball out a lot faster. Russ and Justin Fields had times when they just held on to the ball too long. They took unnecessary sacks. And the defense is going to get helped out by the addition of Aaron Rodgers, because now they're not going to have to be on the field for 1,000 plays at a time. It's one thing to get a stop, and then you're right back on the field 45 seconds later because the offense goes 3 and out. Eventually, you get fatigued a lot quicker than what you would if you had a more efficient offense with more sustainable quarterback play. And that's what Aaron Rodgers can give you at this stage of his career. Is he still going to play at an MVP level? No, he's not. Can he move the way he used to? No, he can't. But he still is a very good thrower. He still is very accurate. And he still is one of the best deep ball throwers in the league. He was 9th in the NFL in big-time throws. Aaron Rodgers showed that he still has a little bit of gas left in the tank for one more good season. And finishing his career in Pittsburgh is the best place for him to be to close out what has been one of the greatest quarterback careers that we have seen in the history of this sport. Listen, who gives a damn about Aaron Rodgers? Who gives a damn about Aaron Rodgers and what he thinks when it comes to getting vaccinated tonight? You know, I don't care about Aaron Rodgers' political stances. All I care about is, can he still play good football? And I believe that he can. And for the people that scream, keep politics out of sports, y'all the main people that bring politics in the fucking sports anyway. Because you keep talking about, I don't want Aaron Rodgers because of the vaccine stance that he has. Who cares? Do you care about winning, or do you care about somebody's political ideals? If Aaron Rodgers can bring the Steelers a Super Bowl, do you care about his political stances? That's what I really don't understand about a lot of you fans. You say, let's keep politics out of sports, but then you find ways to bring politics back in the sports. A lot of you guys don't like Aaron Rodgers because of his political stances. That's cool. Politics is subjective. I don't have to agree with what you agree with. But at the same time, though, I'm willing to put your political beliefs on the side if you're still a really good player. And that's what Aaron Rodgers still is. You cannot tell me that there are 16, 17 better quarterbacks than Aaron Rodgers right now. And if there are, please name them in the comment section one by one. I would love to know. Because right now, I still would take Aaron Rodgers over Brock Purdy and Tua Tagovailoa. So just based off that, he already is a top 13 quarterback. I'm taking him over Geno Smith. I'm taking him over Sam Darnold. There's a ton of quarterbacks that I'd rather have. There's a ton of quarterbacks that I would not take over Aaron Rodgers, despite him being 42 years of age. Age is nothing but a number when it comes to a guy like Aaron Rodgers. He still has some juice in the tank. You cannot judge him on a situation where the coaching was just so abysmal that it was going to be impossible for him to win without being flawless. He was really going to have to look like vintage Aaron at 42 years of age. And that just was unrealistic. And Aaron Rodgers isn't the kind of player anymore that can carry a poorly coached team. He doesn't have to do that in Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin has shown on multiple occasions that he's a great coach. You just don't make it to the playoffs with Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, or Wash Russell Wilson if you're not a good head coach. If Mike Tomlin can win 9, 10 games with all of these randos at quarterback, then he can definitely win a playoff game with Aaron Rodgers. It looks like the Tennessee Titans are going to draft Cam Ward with the first overall pick, and it's a great decision. You can't go wrong taking Cam Ward first overall. When I see Cam Ward play, I get Tony Romo vibes when I watch him. Yeah, he can be a little bit reckless with the ball like Tony was, but that never say die attitude on plays is what helped Tony Romo become one of the better quarterbacks in Cowboys history. And The same thing can happen with Cam Ward on the Titans. Not just because he become one of the best quarterbacks in franchise history for Tennessee, but he become the best quarterback in the history of this franchise. They haven't had a quarterback as talented as Cam Ward since Steve Aaron McNair. And playing in one of the weakest divisions in the league, there's a strong possibility that Cam Ward not only hits the ground running, but he ends up having a similar impact on Tennessee that Jayden Daniels had for the Commanders, where he can elevate the franchise. He can carry a team to the playoffs if they are in a weak division. It's not like the Titans have a completely awful situation that Cam Ward is going to be inheriting. They had a great defense last year, and they got an okay supporting cast. You got 2 good running backs. You got an okay group of receivers. Calvin Ridley's a capable wide receiver. Traylon Burks is alright, but you got Chiggy Okonkwo at tight end, and the offensive line looks like it's making some small improvements as well. The Tennessee Titans getting Cam Ward gives them the best shot at being able to make it to the postseason next year. And if they would have had better quarterback play last year, they probably could have been a 7, maybe 8-win team, maybe more. Will Levis turning the football over at the rate that he did, just did nothing but cost Tennessee games. Games that they easily should have won. All of the boneheaded mistakes in the red zone. It seemed like every time you turned on the Titans game, Brian Callahan was cussing Will Levis out on the sidelines. The name of the game is ball security. Cam Ward has done a great job of that throughout his 5 years being a starting quarterback in college football. His turnover numbers have rapidly decreased every single year. Cam Ward has played at 3 different schools on 3 different levels. He dominated the FCS level, he dominated playing at Washington State in the Pac-12, and he dominated at Miami, putting that program in the national spotlight. The first time they've been in the national spotlight for a while. Cam Ward was the reason everybody was hyped up about Miami. He has a different swag and aura about him that no other quarterback in this class has other than Shedeur Sanders. The arm talent, the velocity that he throws the football with, the ability to turn into Houdini when plays break down, turn nothing into something. This is what Tennessee needs at quarterback. They need a playmaker. They need a guy that the team's going to rally behind. They need somebody that's going to be cool, calm, and collected in the face of adversity. Somebody who's not going to fold. Somebody who's not going to cost them the game when they have the opportunity to win it in the fourth quarter like Will Levis did occasionally. Cam Ward, I truly believe, is going to turn into an elite quarterback on the Titans. He has 5 years of being a starting quarterback in college football, which is going to make the transition from college to pro a lot easier for him. We've seen Jayden Daniels, Bo Nix, who are 4 or 5 year starters, hit the ground running in their rookie seasons. The same thing can happen for Cam Ward. He has a really high football IQ. He understands coverages. He throws with great anticipation. He has great deep ball accuracy. There are some things that he needs to work on. He is far from a finished product. He does have a high possibility of maybe becoming a bust. But I do think that all the intangibles that you look for in a franchise quarterback, the skill set, the upside is there. And just with me being a Miami fan, watching Cam Ward's career closely since he was at Incarnate Word, this is a humble, hardworking individual that's going to be the first guy in, last guy out of the building. The team is going to galvanize behind him. And he's the kind of player that, you know, when he gets going, the whole team gets going as well. And he just has this infectious energy about him that just gets guys to gravitate towards him. As a lifelong Hurricanes fan, Cam Ward gave me my best memories being a fan of this team. And I will always remember him and what he did during his time at the U. In only one season, he shattered all of Miami's single-season passing records. Passing yards, passing touchdowns, efficiency metrics. When you have a 5-year starter that has dominated at 3 different stops with 3 different head coaches learning 3 different systems, it's hard to imagine you at least not being a halfway decent quarterback at the next level.